Welcome back to Worship Time with me, Karen. Now, we've been thinking about people who have been sent by God. People who followed God and did as he said. So last time we looked at Abraham and how Abraham lived in a tent, didn't he? And he followed God wherever he led him. Now, we're going to think about somebody else today. But before we do that, I've got a question for you. Do you like going on long walks? Now, really long walks. Do you like that? Well, sometimes I like that, especially if I get a treat at the end, like going to the park or even buying an ice cream. But sometimes long walks can be really difficult too. Well, what about playing music? Do you like to play music, musical instruments? I've had a go at making some of my own instruments. I've got a bowl here and a spoon. It makes a really good drum, and I've had a go at making a shaker too. I love making music. You can make music with just about anything, can't you? Now, there was a man in the Bible called Joshua who had to go on a very, very long walk and had to play music at the same time. Joshua was sent by God to lead God's people into a land called Jericho. Now, Jericho was a large city, and when Joshua and God's people arrived at Jericho, they weren't allowed in. The city had large walls all around it that stopped God's people from getting inside. I'm going to have a go at building some really tall walls. Now, these walls went all around the city of Jericho, so there was no way God's people were able to get in. There. Shall we make them just a tinsy tiny bit higher? One more. There we go. Now, these walls were a bit of a problem, but God told Joshua what to do. He said you need to walk around the whole city once a day for 6 days, and then on the 7th day march around the city 7 times, and on that last time blow your trumpets and play your music. Well, that's a lot of numbers, isn't it? Let's say it again. So you had to march around the city every day, once a time, every day for 6 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then on the 7th day, he had to march around it 7 times with all the people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And on the final time, they had to blow their trumpets and make lots of music. So that's what Joshua and God's people did. They walked for a very long time, and when they walked for the final time around the city, they blew their trumpets and they made their music, and the walls of Jericho came tumbling down. Wow! And God's people were able to enter the new land that God had given them. And here's a picture of the walls tumbling down in my children's Bible. That's a great story, isn't it? About how Joshua followed and listened to God and was sent to lead God's people to their new home. Well, let's pray together. Here we go. Let's get ready to pray. Dear God, we thank you that you have a plan for our lives. Help us to listen and follow you like Joshua. Amen. Fantastic. Well, children, I hope you enjoyed that story. Now, before you head off today, I have got a really good song to do with you today, and it's called Walking Down the Street. And it's great because it reminds us that God is with us all the time, just like he was with Joshua. So let's give it a go.